From the Rafters of Rupp is brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, Community Trust Bank, Double Dogs, Friends of Coal, Hunt Brothers Pizza, and by Kentucky Farm Bureau.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to From the Rafters of Rupp. I'm Kyle Macy. This season, we highlight former Kentucky legends that have not made their way to the rafters just yet, but have had an incredible influence on the program. For the final episode of this season, I sat down with a Wildcat that at the time of his graduation had played more games in a Kentucky uniform than anyone in the school's history. So sit back and relax and enjoy the next 30 minutes of From the Rafters of Rupp, Kentucky basketball legends. Wayne Keon Turner was born March 22, 1976 in Boston, Massachusetts. He played basketball at Beaver Country Day in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. Wayne was a starting guard for the Beavers, and he is the school's all-time leading scorer with 2,542 points. Being an all-time scorer doesn't just happen overnight. He found a love for the game early as a kid.
I used to just watch the league as a little kid and wish that was me one day, and it eventually happened. And I think I got MVP in one of those games, and that's when I realized, okay, I could probably go further with this. And then I got it again the next year. So I was back-to-back MVPs, feeling myself a little bit, and that's when I felt like I could, I was on my way to be somebody.
Growing up in Boston, he came up with a lot of creative ways to play ball.
I started in the park, when I was probably 5, 6 years old. Me and my cousins and my friends used to play outside on the crates. We made actually, hoops out of milk crates. We cut the milk crate, a part of the side of the bottom out, and we nailed them to we found there was a construction site where they were building a new subway stop. And it was a whole lot of construction, and I don't know who came up with the idea, but we grabbed a stick and someone made a backboard and nailed the crates to it and put it up and tied it around the pole, and we had a hoop. And, for my younger life, learning about basketball, that's where it pretty much started. Then I ventured off eventually into the recreation center and played in the Little League basketball league.
During his senior year, he was named the 1995 Gatorade Player of the Year, a McDonald's All-American, and a Parade All-American. A lot of teams wanted Turner to sign with them. Being on so many All-American teams, Turner found himself surrounded by a ton of talent. His teams consisted of some names any basketball fan would most likely recognize.
And then the McDonald's was in St. Louis, Missouri. That was pretty cool. It was when they first opened up the Kiel Center. So we were the first event that actually happened in that Kiel Center. On my team, it was me, Ron Mercer was on my team, Sharif Abdul-Rahim was on my team, Vince Carter was on my team, Stephon Marbury was on my team, God Shamgar was on my team, Antoine Jameson. I don't know how we got blown out, but we got beat pretty good with all those Hall of Famers.
As Turner moved up the recruiting ranks, he was heavily scouted by Michigan, Syracuse, Connecticut, and UMass. Kentucky and its coaches took notice. UK assistant Delray Brooks showed Turner how serious they were about making him a Wildcat.
It was the only school and the only coach who actually came and picked me up from Boston, and I flew back to Kentucky with him. And then when I left, he flew back with me, dropped me off at my front door. And I was like, that's crazy. He really flew with me back and dropped me off. And that to me, it meant a lot because it showed me that they cared and they really wanted me. So, that kind of sealed the deal.
We'll be right back with more of my conversation with Wayne Turner after these words from our sponsors.
For those on the go, the smoothie connoisseur, the break room favorite, and for those that just never quite have it all, Clark's has what you need to keep your day on track. Make life easier and keep your busy schedule moving forward with everything you need at Clark's. Clark's Pump and Shop. Return, refresh, refuel.
Fresh, tasty, savory. Double Dogs is a great place to eat. Whether you like sports or you just like great food, from pizza to salads to burgers to our legendary fried pickles. Double Dogs. In a single word, delicious.
Welcome back, everybody. As a freshman, where would Wayne Turner fit in the 1996 Kentucky team? The team was loaded with talent. Tony Dell, Derek Anderson, Walter McCarty, Ron Mercer, Antoine Walker, and many other UK greats. Turner learned playing for Rick Pitino meant playing defense, and the effectiveness on the full court press would get him playing time, and he made the most of it.
It was definitely a roller coaster, just learning the system, understanding what he wanted from me, and realizing that, I didn't need to score a lot of points for us to win, and trying to understand how to be the floor general. So it was a big shock, but I'm glad I got that experience and went through it and stuck with it. And, it worked out. I started 8 games my freshman year. We set a record when my first start, with some, I take a lot of credit for that, and because we pressed right off the bat and, set a first half record scoring like 86 points, I think, in one half. I would have liked to start it a lot more, but looking back, that team, it was pretty stacked. So I'm gladly appreciative of the time that I did get.
In the second game of the season, the Cats faced John Calipari, Marcus Camby, and the UMass Minutemen in a showdown of top 5 teams. The game went back and forth, but the Cats fell 92-82. Being a freshman, Turner didn't see much playing time in the game.
It was a kind of a different situation because UMass had recruited me so hard. And, I turned them down and obviously went to Kentucky, and they beat us. So after the game, Marcus Camby's like, should have came to school here. And I'm thinking, maybe is he right, Because I didn't play a whole lot in the game. I got some time in the beginning, kind of gave us a little spark. But then in the second half, watching it, I didn't play a whole lot in the game. But it was a different experience, that game.
The team's style of playing with full court pressing and lots of threes produced a lot of wins. In 25% of their games, Kentucky scored 100 or more points. With that much offense production, players needed to sub in and out regularly to keep the pressure on its opponents.
You're right. Guys were raising their hand because the style of play we played, it was because Coach, I need a sub. You get that cotton mouth, you better be ready to go out there. So I had to chew gum before every game because I know once you got in that press, man, hey, we was tired, so we know the other team was just dying, exhausted. So, yeah. But, yeah, you're right. You wanted the minutes that we got was definitely as much as we probably could handle the way we played.
The 96 team faced tough competition throughout the year. But Turner says the practices were much harder than the games.
Yeah, the games were easier than practice. We all knew that. The practice was a war every day, between both teams. And, we'd kick each other's butt. One day, the subs would get the starters, and somebody might lose their spot, the next practice, because it would be, such a war like that.
Kentucky would go on to win 31 of its next 32 and face UMass again, this time in the Final Four, with a trip to the title game on the line. Pitino made sure that the Minutemen wouldn't be facing the team it faced back in November.
Well, our lineup changed. Antoine didn't start that first game, and Derek, I don't think, started that first game either, Derek Anderson. So when he took out Pope from the lineup and inserted Antoine and Ron, and then took him out and inserted Derek, and he also moved Tony Delk over to the 2. Tony was playing the 1 the first game we played him, and Anthony became the 1. And so the identity of our team was different from that first time. It was more experienced, and also Antoine was no longer on the perimeter. He was more dominant down low. Coach saw that, and you know, we double teamed Marcus Camby. We were ready for him that game because he killed us. That first game, I think he had like 30 and like, you know, a double-double, high double-double, and we really focused in on stopping him. I think once we kind of got to him and contained him, because he still had a great game in that Final Four game, we were able to, you know, beat them.
Kentucky would face Syracuse in the title game and won its 6th championship, 76-67. When the team arrived back in Lexington, Turner saw what a title meant to the Commonwealth.
I think when we came back to Lexington, it was just crazy. Like, I was like, wow, it was people in the graveyard, like, waving. Like, I guess they really worked the graveyard shift and they were in the cemetery just waving. And I was like, this is crazy. Everywhere, coming from the airport, I mean, landing at the airport was crazy. I felt like we was like some type of, you know, rock band or something like that. 'Cause people were cheering and, you know, they had the cameras, and then we drove the bus into Rupp Arena and all of that. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, that's when I realized we did something special.
We'll be right back with more of my conversation with Wayne Turner after these words from our sponsors.
Careful no over torque for if destroy railing. Who writes this stuff?
Hi, honey. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Really good.
It might be difficult to understand what you got yourself into when the box says some assembly required. But with a Kentucky Farm Bureau agent in every county, at least it's easy to get great insurance. Kentucky Farm Bureau, big on commitment.
Should be ready by the time she's in high school. Yeah.
The coal industry's had a big impact on my life. My grandfather was a coal miner, my father was a coal miner. Coal is the largest driving force in our local economy. Have you ever wondered why developing countries don't have the same water and air quality we do? That's because affordable and abundant energy dramatically improves environmental quality and climate safety. You know, I want that for my daughter and her kids as well. That's why I'm a friend of coal.
Kentucky would make another run in Turner's sophomore season. The Cats would roll to a 35-4 record and a second straight trip to the title game. Lute Olson's Arizona Wildcats would be in the path to a 7th title. The game would go to overtime, and Zona would pull away and win 84-79.
Very emotional because I hadn't played in the game the year before, so I didn't really get a whole lot of sleep. And I was just thinking about, you know, the Minnesota game took everything out of me. I think I played like 39 minutes that game. And I was just like exhausted the next day. And coach said I wasn't going to practice. He still practiced me the next day. And he's like, get out there, Wayne. And I'm like, man, assistant, say something. Like he said he wasn't going to practice me and Ron today because we played so many minutes the other night. But he didn't care. And I just remember that, you know, Simon and Terry and Bibby they were ready for us. They definitely were, and they all had good games. And it was just one of those. We just met our match. We ran into a team, you know, just almost as similar to South Carolina with that 3-guard kind of rotation. And you know, like you said earlier, we had some tough times against guards like that.
After the season ended, Coach Pitino decided to leave Kentucky and go to coach the Boston Celtics.
When I heard that coach was leaving, I never heard the whispers. He really like had meetings with all of us and told us. But I had kind of heard, like, from my teammates that coach was probably going to make that move. But then when he called the meeting, we kind of knew, you know, what was going on then. Because usually when he calls a meeting like that, and it's like, okay, coach, something's going on. He just basically said it was a job that he couldn't pass up on. It was something that he wanted in his career. And he always said that, and he said that, you know, you always have a friend in me. If you ever need a job, you know, I'll do the best I can to help you get that job. And, you know, I'm always going to be your friend for life. And I thought that was, you know, one of the nicest things he could have probably said to all of us.
As they say, the show must go on, and the Cats needed a man to lead them. Enter Georgia's Tubby Smith.
I always heard good things about Coach Smith, and got a chance to play against his team when he was coaching at Georgia. And I felt like it was someone coming in who was kind of familiar with Kentucky basketball, because he had coached here in the past with Coach Pitino, and playing against them, their style was a little similar to ours as far as the pressing, and some of the principles were a little different on defense. But I think he came in and, you know, we at some point started to believe that he was a good coach and knew what he was doing as far as coaching us.
In Turner's junior year, Tubby Smith had the Cats rolling to a 22-3 start, but after a Valentine's Day loss to Ole Miss, Jeff Shepard called a team meeting that sparked the Cats, and they wouldn't lose again. Kentucky would carry a 10-game win streak into the regional final against Duke. The Cats would be down double digits in the game, but Turner would take over.
You know, at some point in the game, I honestly thought, hey, maybe this is not our year. But then, you know, it was like, okay, well, what do we got to lose? They've been number one the whole year. Pressure's mainly on them. They are supposed to win the game, so what do we have to lose? And, you know, huddled the guys and just said, look, you know, I'm just throwing it all in the, you know, throwing all the marbles in, and I'm going back to the playground. In my mind, I didn't say that to them, but in my mind, in so many words, I said, look, I'm not running any plays. I'm just going to try to create.
Turner and his teammates would face Stanford in the Final Four. The Cats would come from behind to beat the Cardinals 86-85 in overtime to advance to the title game. After the game, the team got its nickname that would last forever.
Coach Smith said it after the game when we were going back to the hotel. He said something like, those comeback Cats. And that just kind of stuck.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with more of my conversation with Wayne Turner after these words from our sponsors.
Hunt Brothers Pizza has been proudly serving communities across America for over 30 years. Download the Hunt Brothers Pizza app to find one of our 8,000 locations inside a convenience store near you. Choose from Hunt Brothers Pizza's original crust or thin crust, then customize your pizza with any of our 10 toppings to choose from at no extra charge. With that many options, there's sure to be a topping combination for everyone to enjoy a Hunt Brothers Pizza. Call ahead and order yours today.
You're on the move every day. You're mobile, and so is Community Trust Bank. Now, you've got one-touch access to your accounts. No need to remember or update passwords. Make a deposit with a click, not a pen. No deposit slip and no line. And get that morning cup of joe without the hassle, without the wait. Community Trust Bank is dedicated to making your banking experience secure, fast, and easy. Don't wait. Go mobile with Community Trust Bank. Building communities built on trust.
After Kentucky won its 7th title, Turner was headed into his senior season and attempting to be the first Kentucky player to play in 4 straight title games. The Cats would face Tom Izzo and Michigan State in the 1999 regional final in St. Louis.
It was probably one of the fastest fast breaks that I've ever saw outside of ours. They got the ball up the court so fast. And it was just one of the games where we just didn't pay attention to the scouting report. Like, they had bigs. They were kind of identical to us because they had a couple bigs that could step out and shoot the three. And I yelled at Scott so much in that game because he just kept leaving his man open. And I'm like, he's like you. He can shoot. Why you keep leaving him open? So I watched it. That's funny. I watched that, like the highlights of that, probably like 3 days ago. And I could see him trying to switch with Michael Bradley. And Mike was a sophomore that year. And Mike was just so lazy on the switch. And that guy was, I mean, they hit like big threes in that game. And I remember us jumping out to we had a big gap on him. It was like 21-6 at one point. And then Tubby makes these subs. And then it goes all the way. I was like, man, I wasn't even tired. Coach, like, what was going on? I'm asking the assistant, what's going on? I'm not even tired. Like, I'm a senior. Like, put me back in this game. And they made a run. And, I think, that momentum going into halftime definitely carried over for them in the next half. And we just couldn't do nothing with them. They got it going.
The Cats would fall 73-66. It didn't take long for Turner to realize his Kentucky career was over.
Oh, I cried my butt off. I couldn't believe it was over. It was one of the toughest days of my career. I mean, it just was hard to believe it was over and it ended like that. But, I tell people, I said, hey, I might be the only guy that played in the Elite Eight. I saw all phases, lost in the Elite Eight, won the Elite Eight, but also lost in the Final Four, but won the Final Four. And, I can't, I was like, I would have liked to continue the streak of most games played, but Michigan State was the better team, that game.
Wayne would finish his career with Kentucky, having played in a record 151 college games, which has since been broken. He played 75 games for Pitino and 76 games for Tubby. He saw differences between the two coaches.
Obviously, Coach, very stern, steady. They both were. But, Coach Pitino was more like teaching us the business of basketball. Like it was like preparing us to be pros, but treating us like, pro athletes. And just to have that from someone like him and to learn that before I got to the situation was amazing. And it's same with Coach Smith, not to say that Coach Pitino wasn't a family-orientated guy. He was huge on family. I mean, he treated us like his family. Coach Smith was more active with it. We had cookouts at his house. We had team functions at his house where, his family would be there. His dad, his mom would be around Thanksgiving. He'd have us over and stuff like that. So I really, he was probably one of the first successful Black men that I've seen, just in the spotlight. And for me, being an African American, that meant a whole lot for me to see someone like that and feel like I could, be as successful as, he is one day.
Wayne Turner finished his Wildcat career with 1,170 points, nearly 500 assists, and 238 steals. In 2020, he was elected to the UK Hall of Fame.
Oh, it means everything. A lot of hard work, blood, sweat, tears, early mornings, late nights. I know I went in the Hall of Fame, but I know it was a lot of guys that definitely pushed me to be the best player I could possibly be on the team. Like going against Jeff Shepard every day, going against Tony Delk, every day, and just getting the experience from those guys. Definitely, I know that is what helped me become a great player, just having those guys on my team.
He's still flattered at how he's treated by Kentucky and its fans.
Even the older guys, some of them I didn't get to mention, like Sean Woods and, the Dale Browns and, Kenny Skywalker, those guys, Rex coming back and just, showing us what a brotherhood Kentucky basketball really had, because they really didn't have to do that, but they did. And, I'm very, very proud and appreciative to be in the group of, a class like you guys. I mean, to join the Hall of Fame with someone like yourself, I mean, that makes me feel really proud and happy about the career I had here.
After leaving Kentucky, Turner would have a brief stint with Pitino and the Boston Celtics before joining the Harlem Globetrotters in 2000. From there, he won the 2002 CBA championship with the Dakota Wizards. He also played professionally in Italy, Australia, and New Zealand. After finishing his undergraduate degree, he joined Rick Pitino as the Director of Player Development for the Louisville Cardinals. Additionally, in 2011, he was honored by his high school and chosen to be part of the inaugural Hall of Fame class at Beaver Country Day School. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until next time, when we hear more tales from the Rafters of Rupp.
From the Rafters of Rupp was brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, Community Trust Bank, Double Dogs, Friends of Coal, Hunt Brothers Pizza, and by Kentucky Farm Bureau.